I was sitting around thinking, what rare item could I review next? 'Cause, I did a lot of them, but I found something to be perfect, because it's near Halloween, and it's near Christmas. We're gonna go back in time a little bit, to the beginning of the game. We're gonna talk about the two 2011 mounts. Celtic Heroes started in July of 2011. I started in August myself. And the first event was Halloween. So I'll show you what the first mount looked like. Well, here's the best one. 50%. You may say, well, that's slow. Well, that was fast back then. Believe me. Did a lot of crush damage, so it was real powerful. Still is. Pretty slow, but it's got armor, health, energy, and no level requirement. So it's really overpowered for a level 1. It looks different than it used to back then. In the old day, the yellow part of the broom was like neon yellow. It looked really funny and cool, and I loved it. So it flies around like a normal broom type mount. And I'll show you how it attacks. As you can see, it doesn't have an attack animation. Even when I use skills, nothing. The only thing I could use to make it do something is Sweeping Blow, because that makes everything do that. So I could tell you the sad story behind it. Sometime in I want to say 2014, the animations just stopped working out of nowhere. And the admins never went to fix it, because I guess their logic was that so few people had them, so why should we waste time on it? Well, I guess I can't really do anything about it. I tried to raise it up before, but no one cared. Back in the old day, it had attack animations like a two-handed hammer. It was real fun to smash people over the head with a broom. How you got them back then? You could either buy them from the shop, which went up to 50 grand for a Broom of Doom. I'm not sure what the 0% cost. And yeah, there was a 0%. Only 2 events ever did that, and that was one of them. But if you couldn't afford it, you could defeat the Bone Giant. He was like a level 96 star. He was really strong for people back then. And if you killed him, you would get a skull pendant, which could be silver, gold, or ruby, which were also sold from a shop back then. Here's an example. Or you can get a broom. And the brooms, were the exact same ones in the shop, and so were the skull pendants. 0 to 50%. So yeah, you could win a Broom of Doom by killing them. And that was pretty neat. I like that concept. But there's one problem now. With the addition of Legacy, they added the Bone Giant back into the spawns. And he didn't spawn since Halloween 2011, And many years later, they decided, okay, we'll put him back in the game. I guess they had no idea. They didn't really care enough to research it. So, all these drops are still obtainable. The skull pendants minus XP and wisdom because they're too good. Well, actually, no, because they don't stack with licks, but that's another story. And Brooms of Doom and Dark Flame from the Undead Fire Titan, but that's a different story. And yeah, it'll still be branded Halloween 2011, even though it just dropped like a week ago. So there's no such thing as the original item anymore. Sad, and it probably devalues it, but it's still nice to have around. And it's a little reminder of history. Now we'll go on to the sleds. Christmas 2011. So yeah, there's only 2 events in 2011 because it started like halfway through the year. Sleds were 5% to 60%. Here's my 60. That's pretty nice stats. Got crush cold, fast attack speed, armor, resist cold, 50 attack, and it's also level 1. Sleds have this unique pose where it just sits down. I think that's pretty nifty. They are ranged, but the snowball kind of comes out at a weird angle. You see it's like going there. Wonder what happens if I try and use sweeping blow with it. Oh, okay. Unlucky that time. Oh, it just disappeared. Yeah, that was kind of freaky. Sleds, they ran 10 grand to 200 grand. Think about that. That's 4 times the amount as the last event. And money was pretty scarce back then. I mean, of course, you could just buy plat and then buy gold with that, which is what most people did because chests didn't exist back then. But for the average player, you really weren't going to farm that much, unless you were farming the Winter King and selling the weapons off of that. Usually 60% were pretty hard to come by for that exact reason, and whenever you saw somebody back then riding one, it was like a moment of awe. You wanted to be that guy. They were on top of the world, they had an avalanche sled, they're going so fast. And you know, I look back on that and it's pretty funny to think about. But yeah, that's how it was. Most commonly you're going to see 5% around, but there can be a decent number of 60s. Like I used to have 6 at one time, but now I have 4. I mean, it probably helps that I bought most of them on the world, but yeah. Anything between 5 and 60 is really hard to find. I have a 10 here and a 50 somewhere else. But 2011 mounts, guys, what do you think about them? I think they're a nice little relic of the past, and still useful for low-level alts or just messing around in general. Well, until next time.